find myself constantly thinking that the rapid advancement of technology is unavoidable. I often have thoughts that we perhaps should have stopped focusing so hard on making technological progress after the invention of the Sony Walkman. I've been saying that for years, and I'm at the point where even I don't know if I'm joking or if I'm serious when I find myself thinking it, and it somehow feels both cowardly and anti-progressive to have such a thought, and I frequently find myself nervous and worried about how life will be in even the next decade or so. To bluntly say we need to slow down the advancement of science and technology feels like a slap in the face to people who perhaps deal with issues such as blindness or neurological disorders, so to complain about how dystopian or Orwellian the future will most likely be if we don't take it down a notch is harmful for the people who have yet to find a solution to a problem like blindness that they otherwise can't control, and in a sense could be fixed if we only found a way to fix it via science or technology. The year is 2020 and Elon Musk's Neuralink will be coming out soon, and on the surface level it seems the first issues he wishes to tackle with a brain implant is to make the blind be able to see and to help the paralyzed be able to walk. Those are all great things, but we can't ignore the fact that this technology will be the introduction to fusing the human brain with internet technology, which has its benefits, but in my opinion, most certainly has its downsides. In this video I will discuss an aspect of the future of Neuralink that I have yet to hear be raised as a question, which is, where will all the monkeys go? Like most life-enhancing technology, I find myself wondering if at first it will be preserved for the ultra-rich, but will inevitably become an affordable commodity that will eventually morph into a new way of life for most people. When the first brick-sized cellular phone came out, it immediately became a status symbol for rich Wall Street guys to flaunt their wealth by walking around with a phone the size of a human tibia. But like all things that are technologically progressive, it eventually became cheap enough to be used by the common peasant, and it is now a thing we all have and quite possibly cannot live without. Once human beings begin merging with an internet-fueled life-enhancing brain-machine interface, there will certainly be people who wish to instead not alter their current state of consciousness and remain the way they are, a human actual being who prefers to stay a human being with no intention of ever becoming cyborg-like. In this sense, there will be some of us who will be left behind.
What do I do? I don't know what to do. Because if I stay, I'm trapped. If I leave, I'm alone. Oh God, in, out, in, out.
It makes me think of the quote from A Catcher in the Rye's protagonist Holden Caulfield. You know those ducks in that lagoon right near Central Park South? That little lake? By any chance, do you happen to know where they go? The ducks and all, when it gets all frozen over. Humans that choose not to merge with technology will be deemed socially and culturally irrelevant, incapable of having the ability to merge human intelligence with Google's encyclopedic knowledge base. Will we even be able to work?
You might ask yourself, can we get to be superhumans?
Or will we be left behind like the proles in George Orwell's 1984? They will be superior, and we will be left behind, like monkeys. This is the digital dystopia, and I will ask one more time, where will all the monkeys go? So in order to start this off, I want to think of some of the many reasons why a human being like myself would prefer not to be linked up with an internet-fused brain-machine interface. And believe me, there are many reasons, and some of them are more satirical sounding than others. Number 1. The internet is already a terrible place ripe with misinformation and propaganda, and you're gonna ask me to irreversibly put it in my brain? Asking people to go, hey, let's just take this highly personal thing you call your brain and we'll add an implant to it and we'll just kind of put ideas in there and we'll also see what ideas are coming out of it. Doesn't sound very ideal to me. I'm sorry. It just doesn't. It would be one thing if we had the internet in like a pair of Google glasses that we can take off when we're tired of using it, go back to our human self. But once it's in the brain, it ain't coming out. I already, and especially this year, have lost a tremendous amount of hope for ever believing anything I ever hear anymore is the truth. Now that 2020 happened, I honestly don't know if I'm ever gonna believe the official story of anything happening ever again. The government, the media, the internet, the propaganda machine that keeps everything running nice and oiled has proven itself to just be a never-ending constant lies, and the internet has become an extension of those lies. So why would I want the internet to be irreversibly connected with the thing that makes me think and live? And I know Elon Musk is trying to pretend he's this super red-pilled cool sort of anti-lockdown cool guy. He's not. There's no such thing as like a rogue billionaire that makes up to $100 billion and simply gets left alone by the powers that be.
We've been looking for you a long time, Jerry.
Especially when he comes out with life-altering technology that brings humankind to its next level of consciousness. Do you think the rich bankers and elite that run the world are going to go, "Oh rats, that Elon Musk and his great inventing skills just beat us to connecting the world via computers? I guess he's God now, metaphorically and technically speaking. I mean, fair is fair, he beat us to it." No, that would never happen. And let me explain, this is not a personal attack against Elon Musk. He's easily my favorite of all the billionaires. I kinda see him the way I see Zuckerberg. Zuckerberg learned how to connect 6 billion people single-handedly, creating the greatest spying tool known to mankind. They're not gonna let somebody do that without making sure they're a puppet first. And it's weird, I swear I checked Elon's net worth like 6 months ago and he was at like 60 billion. It's weird, he's like at 100 billion now almost. So after the events of 2020 unfolded, why would I ever think something like this would become magically utopian? The world thus far has become more dystopian at an accelerated rate. So if the brain implant is coming soon, why would I do that? Number 2, people will be able to read each other's minds.
I mean, you literally could fundamentally change the way human beings interface with each other.
Yes.
Yes.
You wouldn't need to talk.
This one kind of speaks for itself. A big part of being a human being is that we learn to conform to social norms, and every time we go outside, we have to act relatively sane and collected. If everybody just acted the way they wanted to act, people would call the police immediately and you'd probably be taken off, pinned down to a stretcher. I, for one, don't want people reading my mind. Nobody wants that. I have thoughts so disgusting whenever I'm in the presence of an attractive female that if their parents were around and happened to overhear it, they would both immediately throw up in the nearest sink. And I am totally, absolutely 100% heterosexual, but I often have the occasional gay thought for 1960s Paul McCartney. I don't know if it's either because he's good looking or if it's because I'm a musician and want to be him. But I mean, come on, just look at the guy, he's a beautiful man. I don't want anyone knowing that. In fact, I'm gonna have to remember to edit this part out of the video now. Everybody would most likely be outed as a racist immediately too, and not even necessarily in an angry or hateful way. If you see a bunch of Chinese students getting off of a plane in Boston wearing backpacks, you're most likely going to immediately think, they're probably Harvard students. And then you gotta deal with them giving you the stink eye because you made assumptions based off of their race. We all stereotype, and I don't care who you are, you do it. And if you're saying you don't, you're lying. Some things are better off unsaid. And last but not least, number 3, humanity will fade. I'm gonna make this last one quick because I'm already working on a video about the pros and cons of Neuralink and I want to get to the purpose of this video already. We have to stop and consider that once we have the ability to have something like a Google search engine in our brain, does it leave room for our own humanity? Years ago, Carl Pilkington made a really good point on the Ricky Gervais Show podcast, and he was ridiculed, like always, by Ricky and Steve.
Hang on though, at what point are we us then?
Yeah, this is good. Go on.
No, because if I can go on the internet at any time, then that's going to know more than me.
What does that mean? Okay.
Now, if I've got a chip in my head with Google on it, I'm never going to use my head. I'll just be forever on Google.
I'm never gonna use my head!
I think the point Carl made here was that if we had the ability to connect our brain to artificial intelligence, then it diminishes our own personality, intellect, and instead we replace human logic and intelligence with a search engine that already knows everything. Think of it this way. We as human beings are the way we are today because prior to the current moment we're living in, we've had a lifetime of personal experience and knowledge that has molded our personalities, which results in us making future decisions based on stuff we've learned in the past. For instance, I have an almost encyclopedic knowledge of useless Beatles trivia that I've acquired throughout the years because I have a personal interest in the Beatles and have read tons of books on that particular topic. Every time I run into a fellow Beatles fan, interesting conversation ensues, and me and the other Beatles fan exchange knowledge because we're both aware that it's a topic we have a personal interest in. If a Google search engine is put in our brain, what, is everyone going to be able to connect directly to an infinite supply of Beatles knowledge via a search engine? Recently I ran into a complete stranger who mentioned that he just renewed his personal pilot's license, and for about an hour I stood there and let this guy talk my ear off on all of the complexities of flying a plane, and by the end of the conversation I'd learned a lot, and I could tell that I'd made this guy's day because I was genuinely interested in learning about what he was talking about. I'd say that this man was unique in the fact that he knew so much on this particular topic. The guy was pretty quirky, and I found him pretty interesting. Once an infinite knowledge of everything is linked up to our brains, people become less and less unique, and in my opinion it completely sucks the fun out of everything. So for years I've been highly fascinated by future technology and how dystopian a lot of it seemed, and I always wondered how they would gradually convince the public that technology such as this will be better and improve the human race. Back in like March when all this crazy stuff started happening around the world, me and my friend who hosts a podcast together jokingly said something like, LOL, what if all this crazy stuff happening in the world is just like an agenda to change life as we presently know it? And then as the events of 2020 began to unfold, I started to go, oh no, it's that. It's starting to look that way. Call me crazy. I already know I am a little bit. I'm a bit paranoid, I'm a bit crazy.
Get out while you can!
The way things are going, it's starting to feel more like things that used to sound optional may eventually be forced somehow. But there is hope. And as I was writing the script for this video, I started to think up a solution. And before you know it, I was pacing around my bedroom getting really excited for this idea that I have that can be both fair to the people who want to merge with AI, but also for people like me who don't. I'm so excited to tell you. So here's the plan. We could take a densely populated area of the world and make it our own country. Someplace like the Netherlands or Denmark or something. And all the people who want to join the Neuralink army can live their life letting technology progress and all that, but we could all become essentially Amish and create an entire society harmonizing with nature and essentially create a commune where technology is not allowed past a certain point. It would essentially be like LARPing, live action role playing, but extremified. I've always wanted to create a town where we could make the movie American Graffiti kind of a reality. All the music would be 1950s doo-wop, we'd all have muscle cars, and if we had a problem, we could solve it by threatening each other with those flip-out comb knives like the bully from the movie It had. There would be no internet, no phones, and we'd essentially create our own economy, where instead of using money, we'd all barter and exchange goods and services. The only downside is that it's human nature for the people who run the world to want to conquer everyone everywhere. So we'd have to come up with a mutual agreement that people from the New World weren't allowed to cross our border and communicate with this LARPing society I hope to create. I think this would only be fair. And we could create our own constitution similar to the American one, except in this new world we would actually follow it instead of turning it into Swiss cheese the way it currently is in America. The Constitution means nothing anymore. I really can't think of a better solution. The only way I think we could get out of this direction we're heading in is if we start thinking now about the ethics of where we're headed. Think of it this way. Once Neuralink comes out, they would be able to plant false memories in our brain. The first thing a dictator does when they take over is usually burn books and erase history. But in the past, they've only been able to sort of half get away with that. But now, we're on the brink of a technological revolution, and once it happens, there will be no going back. It's things like this that I think we need to start having a serious dialogue about, but nobody's doing it, and I'm worried. I always thought it was kind of lame when a YouTuber names their fan base the way Logan Paul calls his fans Logan Paulers. But if you like this video, like, comment, and subscribe. Become a digital dystopian. Let's start our own damn country. This needs to happen. Thanks for watching.